A new season just dropped, so it's a perfect time to rank the best epic brawlers in the game to play, upgrade, and unlock on the Brawl Pass. Starting us out is number 10, Colette, who is going to thrive in Heist. Colette's one of the best brawlers for that game mode, a frequent ban or pick for any of those competitive Heist maps, and on ladder, it is one of the easier ones on that game mode to push to a tier 50. However, outside of that, I don't ever really see Colette being viable, giving you a huge advantage. Obviously, she's built for countering tanks, but that's very circumstantial, and she doesn't necessarily naturally fit meta on all these other maps. Phenomenal in Heist, but that's just kind of her one game mode. But because she's so good at that game mode, she is going to crack the top 10 for me. Of course, this is a top 10 list. There are other brawlers that were very close that have similar grades to Colette if you want to look at this as a tier system, which is kind of how I grade these and put them in order. If you want to hear about other brawlers that are in the epic category that I don't talk about, leave me a comment down below and let me know if you have other brawlers that you think should be in the top 10 that I didn't necessarily have in here. Number 9 on the list is going to be Gale, who is taking quite a tumble in the rankings, and that's mainly due to a balance change he most recently got. Instead of taking 4 attacks to charge his super, it takes 5. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're used to having a great super and a fantastic, if not one of the best hypercharges in the game more frequently, it's gonna make a pretty big difference. Gale used to be in the S tier for me. Now he is more down to the B tier and number 9 on this epic list. He still counters tanks very well. I think he's meta relevant. He's still great on Brawl Ball and Hot Zone. I would still consider drafting him there, but he's not really a must ban anymore, not necessarily a must get your hands on, and instead of dictating drafts, he's kind of just circumstantial more than anything now. I still like Gale. I still think he's good. I still think you can push him. He's just not as special as he used to be. Number 8 is a little bit of a surprise to me when I got done making this list, and that is going to be Lola. Lola's somebody that's risen up the ranks for me. I don't think she's an S tier brawler or anything like that. She's not particularly special in any category, but she's really good at a lot of different things. She's got good damage. I like that she has an extra spawner, which can do some extra work for you. You can drop a shield if you need to embrace a little bit of damage. I think Lola having that extra spawner too can actually match up very well into some of these single shot brawlers and kind of lay the trap for them. The mid-range engagement she has against other mid-range brawlers is actually pretty favorable. So for a lot of those reasons, and especially seeing her at pro gameplay show up a lot more in these pro scrims, it's somebody I have to pay attention to. Lola's somebody if you're looking to invest your valuable coins, your valuable power points into. She doesn't have a hypercharge and she's already really good. I grade her around a B+ right now in the current meta, and because of that, I think she could get even better. So this might be somebody for the long term if you're looking for those kinds of options to get into Lola now, maybe practice getting better with her, push those trophies, and the ceiling I think can only grow higher for her. Number 7 on the list is going to be Belle, who I often coin as the Swiss Army knife of Brawl Stars because she's so darn good at so many different things. She is similar to somebody like Lola, but I think Belle takes it a step further. Maps, modes, matchups, there's a lot that go Belle's way. I don't think she's some cracked S tier brawler. I don't think she's a top 5 brawler in the game, but she has consistently A to A- to B+ kind of range for as long as I can remember, to be honest with you. A lot of that is due to how Belle was made. It's going to take some serious nerfs if you ever wanted to bring her down below that point. She's already gotten her hypercharge, so I think the ceiling has kind of been set unless they buffed her, which I don't really see them looking at Belle. I think Belle's in a pretty safe spot in general. I don't think she's necessarily causing chaos or the source of frustration for enemy players. She's just in a really good place. A super that shreds through higher HP opponents, which is something very valuable, I would say, in the game right now. I think she has the nest eggs, the reverse polarity, so you have multiple different builds for her. You can play her in Brawl Ball, Gym Grab, Knockout, Bounty. She's not necessarily my first overall selection or the best brawler in any particular map, but yeah, she cracks the top 6 for a pick ban phase a lot of the time. Belle's just been one of these dependable brawlers that if you've invested power points in, invested coins into, you're gonna have a successful go at it on a lot of different maps on ladder, and she's definitely gonna help you out in the ranked grind. At number 6, I've got Piper, who I consider to be the second best sharpshooter in the entire game. The epic category is not short on these long range options either. There are several other good long range options that I didn't even mention on this list, like Bee and Mandy, who are dangerously close to making it. I think are in strong consideration, but just didn't quite make the nudge for me. Piper, though, as a one-on-one brawler, is a very solid. If you are a good Piper, you are going to thrive, especially in these one-on-one matchups into other long-range sharpshooters. Something like a Piper versus Belle matchup, it's going to favor Piper. She's got that extra range, and she's got the extra damage from the longer distance. I think somebody like a Belle might have more maps. Somebody like a Lola might have more maps that you can play her on, but the maps that Piper is good on, she's going to be one of the best. Piper is somebody that is going to hit the ban stage, the play stage, frequently and ranked, because she's a great option on Knockout, on Bounty, and even occasionally being used at pro gameplay for a mid on Gym Grab. Depends on the map, of course, but she's even showing up on some of the other game modes, which she hasn't always in the past. She's got a good hypercharge, which boosts the stats up. She's got good gadget combinations. There's several builds for her. Really like the spot that Piper is in overall, and I think she has a little bit higher of a skill expression compared to some of these other sharpshooters. Piper's a good one to invest some coins in, to push on ladder. I think you can be very successful on the maps that she's good at, so watch out for some of those Knockout and Bounty modes if you're a trophy grinder, because she's definitely going to get you some wins. Cracking our top 5 epic brawlers is going to be none other than Larry and Lori. I think there's an argument to be made for who the best thrower in the game is, but I don't think there's a doubt that the most versatile thrower is going to be Larry and Lori. Despite a recent balance change which brought them down from 3,000 HP to 2,800 HP, I do think Larry and Lori are still in a great state and very meta relevant. I'm happy that they got a nerf, but I think it's going to take more. Larry and Lori are just the kind of brawler that when they were invented, you knew they were going to be strong. It's a brawler with a reverbing shot that does solid damage, is a thrower with long range, and has an assistant in Lori that can embrace damage for him, or you can go for the extra reload depending on these very specific scenarios. At the end of the day though, I think Larry is still very solid. You can feel the HP nerf a little bit, but I'm still drafting him. I'm still playing him. I'm still pushing him on ladder. He's one of the tier 50s that I've pushed more recently, and I think he's one of the easier ones to do it with. It's taken several nerfs at this point to get him to this space, and he's still an A- to A kind of brawler for me. I think Larry and Lori are still as relevant as ever. Number 4 on this list is going to be Angelo, who I consider to be a very high A tier grade. He's my number 1 sharpshooter in the game, and he's somebody that I think is still going to require more nerfs if you want to bring him down. He's a sharpshooter with potential for very high damage, high skill expression, and can travel over water, has a gadget that can get you out of harmful situations. There's just so many things that Angelo still does so well. I would say borderline special on some of these maps and modes, especially if there's water and there's any kind of long range. Angelo is your guy. At a pro level, he is still showing up a ton. He didn't receive any balance changes in the most recent set of buffs and nerfs. I think he's just the kind of brawler, because of the way that he's built, is going to take a lot to keep bringing him down. And because he didn't get any nerfs and there's other brawlers that were ahead of him that did, kind of even things out a little bit. I do think he's resting at an A+. Don't think he quite makes the S tier for me. I mean, I only have a few brawlers in the S tier. That's why it's an S tier. But I think Angelo is still a staple in this meta. He's a long range threat and somebody that you still want to get your hands on. Number 3 is going to be Frank, who is still, despite a nerf, going to be very relevant in the meta. Frank's most recent change is that his main attack was brought down from 1,240 to 1,160. This makes a little bit of a difference, but the biggest difference maker with Frank and why he is so good is the rework that he most recently got. And I'm glad they did it. It took Frank from being one of the worst brawlers in the game and borderline unplayable and competitive to finally giving him a chance to shine. I wouldn't be surprised if he got another nerf in the future, but for now, he is still going to be very powerful and a great brawler for pub stomping on the ladder. In ranked and in pro play, of course, they're going to be able to draft into him. He's a tank and he does have some direct counters. Because of that, sometimes it's hard to get away with him. But on the randomness of ladder, where you don't get to choose your opponent, where your opponent doesn't get to choose who they're matching into and make informed decisions, the randomness of that is where Frank can shine most. And because of that, I would still give him an S tier grade. I think Frank is still a good enough brawler to where most players can make him work and push him very high in 3v3. Frank is still a major threat and the definition of a sponge. Good Franks are going to be able to absorb all of the damage, and because of his rework, he's going to be able to swing at you a little bit faster, survive a little bit longer, and 13,000 to 15,000 HP clobbering its way towards you is going to be difficult for most players. Still continue to use him in 3v3. There's plenty of scenarios where he's going to be great. I think he's an excellent candidate to still push to something like a tier 50. Number 2 on the list is going to be Stu, who recently got a hypercharge, and it's one of the best in the entire game. The sky is the limit for Stu, especially now that he has that hypercharge. He was already good, now he is special. Limitless Supers has taken Stu to another level. I already knew that Stu was good. He was somewhere in an A tier, and even at World Finals, before he was eligible to use his hypercharge, there were a lot of pros that shocked me in terms of his ban rate and how frequently they wanted to play him. Stu is somebody on ladder you can pull off on a lot of different maps and modes, and ranked is a safe first overall pick and somebody worth investing those power points and coins in. He is somebody that I would consider to be a top 10 investment brawler for the long term. I think before he was an A tier brawler when that hypercharge didn't exist, even if they nerf him a little bit, tweak the hypercharge, whatever that looks like, I still think he's going to be pretty meta relevant. He is a low ping warrior. He does require some strong mechanics, but if you can get better with him, he is going to be well worth it. And finally, the number 1 brawler on the epic tier list is going to be Shade, who's definitely getting an S tier grade from me. I think Shade has an argument to be one of the best brawlers in the game. Obviously, I kind of have to see how he plays out at a professional level, but let's just take it from a casual level for now. Look, the guy can go through walls, he can hit you through walls, and because of that, most of us are going to struggle. It's just how it is. That's a very powerful tool that no brawlers really have access to. Additionally, he's so new that I think people are just still going to be able to try and figure out ways to go against him. So for now, I think you all can take advantage at home, and he's a brawler that you can push very high on the ladder. There's also a few builds that help cover some of his weaknesses. I really like the extra range gadget. He doesn't have a ton of range, so any way that you can help that out, and even consider using a +1 gear for him, because I think that gadget is so valuable in helping you cycle those supers or just charge up your first super, because after you get that first super and you're diving at opponents, it's really hard to stop the guy. I would go with the super that does damage reduction. I think that's more helpful than the other one. I'm sure there's a Shade Apocalypse coming. I would brace for impact, get ready to get smacked through the walls. For a few days, it might be a little bit annoying, but we'll get through it. And in the meantime, take advantage, upgrade, push Shade, and try and get your hands on him as early as possible before all the other players out there do too. Appreciate y'all watching. Hope y'all enjoyed, and let me know what you think about this format. And if there's any brawlers I didn't mention in the epic category that you want to know about, feel free to drop a comment below. With that being said, we'll see y'all in the next one.